What's going on, fishy friends? Rich here, Rich's Fishes, taking a look at the far end of the fish room, 29-gallon tank, where I have 2 male German blue rams left. These two were part of a larger group I had a while back, and out of that group I had a pair form and start spawning for me. Unfortunately, all I have left is the male over here in this 10-gallon tank. And this is really a beautiful male, but the light on this tank kind of sucks for filming, so I don't think he ever really shows up on camera quite as nice as he does in person. Let's see if I can't. There we go. If I move the light, you can get a much better idea. Of course, there's a mark on the tank right there. Some scratches on the glass from a previous owner. I think that's a much better example of what this guy looks like. And just the way I have this cheesy little shop light on top of this tank, it doesn't illuminate the fish very well. But I'm over here doing some maintenance and just kind of thinking out loud to myself, doing some water changes right now. I'm going to have to stop the water on this. I'm draining into the floor drain over there. If you follow the hose back, around and around and around and around. We're draining the 72 bow front. I already drained the 55-gallon planted tank over here. I'm about to overflow this tank up here. Caught that just in the nick of time. And so what I was been doing the past week or so, I was over here showing these rams for a reason. I'd been talking to a breeder of some German blue rams a while back on one of the forums I used to frequent, and kind of lost touch with the guy. He was just beginning a breeding program 2 or 3 years ago. Since then, he's really taken off and done quite well with it. He goes by Coral Bandit, I think, on Aquabid and some other things. I think he's becoming, sort of getting a name for himself. If you ever hear of bandit rams, those are rams that are apparently bred by Coral Bandit. Nice enough guy, he's been talking to me here and there. We had talked about buying some fish in the past, and got back in touch with him again recently when he showed back up on a forum where I haven't seen him in a few years. He showed me where he's been spending some time recently, where he's been documenting some of his progress in the fish room and his breeding projects and things like that. So he's got a bunch of beautiful rams, really, really nice specimens that he's got. He's also got a bunch of great Apistogramma species, so he and I were working out a deal to get a shipment. He had commented to me that he was hoping to end shipping for this year, take a little hiatus from it for a week or two right around the holidays. He wanted to make this weekend, what's this, the weekend of the 17th or so, the last weekend that he was going to ship any fish, and then he was going to take a break for the holidays, just because shipments get so very badly delayed due to Christmas and everything like that. So we worked out a deal on everything. He told me he had, enough heat packs left to do 2 shipments. He was going to ship 1 box to a guy in Staten Island and another one to me. This is a guy who lives up in upstate New York, so it's not too far of a journey for him to ship up there down to me. And he said he's had good luck with it, even with the cooler weather this year, so I was willing to take his judgment call on it and actually buy some fish from him and allow him to ship during the winter like this, because he said he's been doing well with it. So we worked out a deal for that. He sent me a tracking number earlier today that he had purchased online and printed out the shipping label. Then he sent me another email later on today, sort of apologizing for the fact that he just didn't get to the post office in time, and surprisingly enough, when he showed up to the post office, they were already closed. So he's unwilling to ship. He doesn't have any more heat packs. He's not going to get them until later in the week or something like that. He boxed up my fish and used the heat packs, but obviously he's going to have to unbox them since the post office wasn't open. So now he's going to wait for new heat packs before he's going to be able to ship, and that will be too close to Christmas for him to want to ship. So now I got to work out a refund with this guy just to be able to pay him again in another couple of weeks and get some more fish from him. Just stepping over here, showing the rest of the maintenance I'm doing right now. Draining the 55-gallon planted tank. Draining the 72 bow front. Start filling them back up soon. I'm hoping this weekend to attack this mess up here where I haven't had any fish for a while. But I definitely do have to move a few things around and prepare for any of these new fish, whether I'm getting them this week, next week, 3 weeks, 4 weeks from now. I want to move a couple more angels over here into the planted tank. These last 2 I'm going to go one at a time. Move them over here. I might move some of my discus over here. I'll probably consolidate the rams that I have left. The one I was showing over here in this tank, and the two over there. I'll consolidate the three of them, and what I'm going to get from Coral Bandit should be at least one pair, as well as 4 or 5 females, I think. So I'll add the females in with the group of males that I currently have, and see if anybody else pairs off from there. And I'll probably consolidate. Let's see, I got one Apistogramma left down there, and maybe I'll put him into one of the planted tanks, and leave myself that tank where he was for some of these new Apistos that I'll get from Coral Bandit. So hopefully that's the general plan going forward in here as far as new acquisitions. Other than that, I'm also hoping to sort of revamp a couple of things, add in a few more tanks. I'm not exactly sure what the game plan for that's going to be. I've been talking from Mike from Michael's Fish Room. He and I were talking about automation processes, getting water changes automated. If you follow along on Michael's channel, you'll see he's made quite a lot of progress and quite a lot of headway with his system. I think he's essentially done. He's offered to volunteer his time and come and give me a hand, and while I'd love to take him up on it, I just don't think I'm really ready to actually start undertaking too big of that part of the project yet. I'm hoping to maybe rearrange this shelf, this rack system over here, add a few more tanks onto this. I'm thinking I can set up a bunch of 10 gallons long-wise. I can probably do at least 9, if not 12 10 gallons over here and sort of rearrange everything else. And in that, I might take this 10-gallon tank and move it over to there, move these two, and then I'll have the 12-gallon long up here. I'll put a second 12-gallon long below it. I think that'll make much more sense aesthetically to have the two 12-gallon longs over here. I do have to get it on my get on the ball here and get something doing with these tanks. I've had these tanks forever. That one there and this one back here. I just love the dimensions of the tank. I love how unique they are. I've had a couple of different ideas bouncing around in my head for how I want to aquascape them, and I just haven't pulled the trigger and done it yet because I've been so busy with normal tank maintenance. I don't want to take on any more tanks until I can at least try to automate them. So my thinking there is to build the rack over here and maybe move some tanks around over to it, and that way what I can do is with all the new tanks I'll add in, I'll sort of create the automated water change system at the same time. So I'll get the new tanks sort of as self-sufficient as possible, and then I can move fish out of my old tanks into those new tanks that are now automated, and that will allow me the opportunity to retrofit the old tanks, get them drilled, and then get them added on to whatever kind of automated water system I end up choosing to do. Part of what compounds my problem is getting rid of wastewater. So I'm going to have to sort of create separate zones. We're going to call this one zone over here, I suppose. And I'm probably going to have everything overflowing out of the bulkhead in the tank, collecting it in what I'm going to call a quasi-sump down here below. I'm going to need a pump in that sump with some flexible hose that I'll then run up into the ceiling and out of the room. So I can't come with a drain line across here because I got a door here. I can move these shelves when I need to use that door, but I don't want to leave a hard line plumb. I don't want to plumb a hard line across the door opening because that's just a bad idea. So I'll have to drain into there, come up and over. And then similarly here, I'll have these 10-gallon tanks that will drain into a quasi-sump down there under the tank. And similarly, I'll have another pump there, pumping water out of it to a drain. And then over on this side, I'm going to have to figure out how I'm going to drain water out of that tank that's super low. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do there yet. I don't know what happened right there. Might just leave a small container over on the side that's very shallow, kind of wide and shallow, so it can hold a lot of water. And again, another pump there. And then again, these two tanks over here will go into another sump system below it, as well whatever new tanks I add over here into this corner. Each of these sump systems, I could probably combine these two. It's not going to return water to any of the tanks. It's just going to hold the wastewater that gets overflown out of the bulkhead in each tank. I could probably even keep fish in these sump systems that I'm creating in my head down below each tank. But they'll all have to then pump up and around the room. There is, in the corner back there in the dark, is the main sewer line. I might be able to pump wastewater there. I got a drain line in the floor over here that I can add some of the water to that's dispersing out of all these tanks, and or I can come back over here to the utility sink. So I got a couple of different options, and none of them seem perfect, is my problem. So I'm going to keep working on that mentally, but like I said, I think it's easiest for me to add in a rack and some of the new tanks and start making them automated, and while they don't have any fish in it. That way I can then move my fish over to those automated tanks and work on automating the setups that I do have. I'm very mentally torn on things like my planted tanks. I can't decide if I want to break them down to add them into the system, or perhaps automate these, and instead of drilling a hole through the back of the tank and adding the bulkhead, I can create a PVC overflow, which is kind of big and ugly, but it wouldn't require me to break down the tank. Same thing here with the 72 boat front. The smaller 10 gallons, I think I can deal with them. I don't think that should be a problem. This 20, I'm not exactly sure if I'm going to break that down or not, too. That's part of why I'm not jumping at the gun to dive in and re-aquascape and sort of fix this ridiculous mess of a tank, because I don't know if I want to break it down to drill it, or just sort of trim what I have, remove some of the neglected plants, and allow this thing to thrive again, which then makes it difficult to drill the bulkhead later. So, back and forth and round in my head on how to deal with all that. Anyway, guys, comment, rate, subscribe, let me know what you think, and I'll talk to everybody later.